So two-step inequalities, we're going to solve these the same way we solve two-step equations. So same idea. We want to get the variable by itself, and we're going to use those two operations. So when you're solving it, keep in mind you're solving it the same way you do equations. Don't get tripped up by the inequality sign in the middle. Your step one is still going to be to add or subtract, like backwards PEMDAS. Your second step is always going to be to multiply or divide. So first step, second step. The only things that are different are the graphing. So we normally don't graph when we have an equation. We're going to graph with inequalities. There's not one solution. It's representing, it could be multiple solutions when we do inequalities. And on your second step, remember when we did one step, if your last step is multiplying or dividing by a negative number, we flip the sign. But we'll practice that when we get to it. Some things to remember when we do graph. If it is less than, the less than symbol, or the greater than symbol. So those are those signs that don't have a line underneath. They just look like regular old alligator mouths. We use an open dot. Because it's saying that's just your starting point. Your solution isn't going to be that number. That's just where you're going to start. Open dot, think of open door. Okay. If we have less than or equal to, like this guy, less than or equal, or we have greater than or equal.
What do you call those ones? If the ones that have the line, we can call the normal ones alligators.
I mean, they're still, to me, they're still alligator mouths. But I'm just saying, if the alligator mouth doesn't have a line underneath,
The alligator, the line
so
underneath.
then it's a closed dot. Sure. Closed dot. Because if it's equal to, if it could possibly be equal to, that would mean that whatever your solution is, that number could be an answer. So that's why we would close the dot. Think of closed dot, think about a closed door. You've got that line underneath, you've closed the door. If it's open, no line underneath. Okay, so let's look at the first example. We're gonna remember solve it the same way we would solve an equation. So I've got my variable, number, and a number. So the goal is to get the variable by itself, and I am gonna add or subtract first. So what can I get rid of first? That 2, and remember we do the opposite when we're solving equations or inequalities. So minus 2 is now plus 2.
See, that's what I was talking about yesterday.
So bring everything else down. 18 plus 2 is what?
20.
Bring the same sign down. And then I've got 4 times x. 4 times something. Then your second step. Multiply or divide.
4 times. Divide.
We're going to divide. Since it's saying 4 times something, the opposite would be to divide. 5. And so x is going to be less than or equal to 5. So that's our solution. So when we go to graph it, since it could be equal to 5, we close the dot because 5 could be an answer. And shade your number line in. Shade all of the numbers that are less than 5. If you get confused, look at your sign and that'll tell you which direction. So to the left. Okay, so look at number 1. I've got 3x minus 4 is less than 17. So same thing. Think about solving an equation. What's our first step? We're going to add or subtract. So what can I get rid of? I can get rid of that minus 4 by adding it, doing the opposite. I'm going to bring everything down. So I bring that sign down. I bring 3x down. Now I've got one last step. And I'm going to divide since it was multiplied. My sign doesn't have a closed line underneath it, so that means I go to 7 and I put an open dot. Now I'm going to shade in the same direction my sign is facing, to the left. Okay, number 2, I've got -2 plus x is less than or equal to 3. So this one's just a one step. What am I going to get rid of? What can I get rid of? That 2. So always look at the sign that's in the front of your number you're getting rid of, and that'll tell you what to do. So since it's negative or a minus, the opposite would be
I got it.
positive. Then bring everything down. X less than or equal to 5. Am I going to put a closed circle or open circle on 5?
Close.
Closed, because it could be equal to 5. So 5 could be my answer, but it could also be anything less than 5. So I'm going to shade in all the numbers less than 5. Or I'm going to look at my sign, and that's going to tell me which direction I'm going in. Okay, on number 3, we've got our variable on the right side instead of the left side. So when we read inequalities, we look at them left to right. So for equations, remember I said you can flip them around, you can move the side that the variable's on. But I said it was an option. With inequalities, I would definitely move the variable over. So what that means is I'm going to move this 2x plus 6 to the left side. 2x plus 6, and then I want 12 to be on the other side. Now here's the deal. When I do that, I have to make sure this alligator mouth in the middle is open to the same side it was open to before. So if my alligator mouth is open towards 2x plus 6 in my original problem, what does that mean? That means it has to be open towards 2x plus 6 in mine that I write.
I got the answer.
Good. So 12 minus 6 is 6. I'm going to bring that sign down, and I'm going to bring 2x down.
Oh, well, 3 is the answer.
And then your last step is to divide. So 6 divided. Open circle on 3, so that means my solution could be anything bigger than 3. So I'm going to shade into the right just like my sign is telling me. Number 4, it does not have any negatives. That's just how the paper looks. So number 5, same thing. I want to rewrite the problem because I want my variable to be on the left side. So I'm going to put x minus 2. And my alligator mouth is open toward the 7. So I'm going to rewrite it that way, where the alligator mouth opens up toward the same thing. So what's your first step?
Add or subtract, and you have to add.
So I'm going to have to add that 2.
So 9 is, or x is less than 9.
Perfect.
And you have to multiply.
It's just one step. I don't have anything else attached to my x, so x is less than 9. So is that an open dot or a closed dot?
Open.
Open dot. And I'm going to shade which direction?
Left.
To the left. Everything less than 9. Because that's what my sign showed me. So that's the direction I'm going to shade. Really quick. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rewrite it. So my variable's on the left. My alligator mouth is open towards the 1, so I'm going to keep that. And then I'm going to solve for it.
Wait, should it be the other way around because it wants more?
Your alligator mouth opens up towards the same thing, though.
But
So if it was opened up toward the 1 in my original problem, when I flip it around, it needs to be opened up towards the 1 in my new problem. So that'll give me 0, right? Less than or equal to, and then x divided by 3. So since that's dividing, I would go and I would multiply. What's anything times 0?
0.
21.
0. So x is less than or equal to 0. Closed or open dot?
Close.
Down.
Done.
Shade in everything less than 0, so to the left. So that should make sense with your problem.